Silent Hill has always thrived on one thing: narrative. The best horrors don't just scare you, they linger, they gnaw at you, and they beg to be dissected and divulged. Silent Hill F is exactly that kind of experience. I went into it blind. No spoilers, no breakdowns, just the initial trailer and a few glimpses of gameplay to give me an idea, and I do implore that you do the same. Play it through at least once before joining me on this deep dive or any other videos, because every run peels back another layer of Hineko's journey through the fog. It's something truly special to experience firsthand, like most of other Silent Hill titles. And this is going to leave you with many questions and kind of brain-tingling assumptions that we're going to aim to answer today. Specifically, what F does is a departure and reinvention for the series. What we have here is a fresh, daring take on Silent Hill. It respects the name, but it refuses to repeat the past. But it reinvents it. It's visually stunning on the new Unreal Engine 5. It's narratively layered. There's so much in this game's lore and dialogue and cutscenes and exposition. And all of it's crafted with precision across the combat, the pacing, the performance, the replay value. And the haunting score is something that really unsettled me, more so than any other Silent Hill. So yeah, that's just something we will touch on later. Silent Hill F doesn't just live up to the series or to the hype. It's actually standing quite tall against the survival horror greats. But why? What is different? Why would the developers make such a change 30 years into the franchise? Well, Konami are very much known for good and bad decisions, but here they've nailed it on the head. F is set in 1960s Japan, far away from the foggy town we know near Toluca Lake. And F drops you into a world consumed by a mysterious creeping fog and blossoming rot. A protruding infection that doesn't just kill, but transforms those victims into vessels to fight against the player and obstruct your path. At the middle of all this, and what I would also say, the heart of it, is Hineko, our first female protagonist since Heather in Silent Hill 3. Now, she's just a schoolgirl. She's fragile, she's anxious, and she's unsure about her future. This tragic journey becomes the emotional core of the entire game, and the narrative bends and fractures around it, inviting you and others to interpret, replay, and piece together its meaning and every choice you make. There'll be the kind of player who plays it once, doesn't understand it, and puts it down. There's a fair bit of that online right now, but there's other players that will replay it at least once or twice, getting another or the true ending and going, oh, it makes sense, that's a really cool thing. And then there'll be hardcore players that play this over and over and over again, analysing the culture, looking into the history of Japan, researching, and I'm sure you're one of those players. And ultimately this game answers a simple question: what is a woman's place in this world? Where is her future, and is it even her decision to make? But make no mistake, this game is going to divide people. I've already seen The Division online. Much like Metal Gear Solid 2 or Resident Evil 7, it dares to shift expectations and go against what players are going to expect. It looks backward to move forward, reshaping the series for a new era. And I'm happy to report it really works too. I adore almost every inch of it, and in this video we're going to dig into its story, into its atmosphere, into its gameplay and the lore to uncover the true message behind Silent Hill F. And I will say, what makes this entry so compelling is how it plays with the idea of cycles and loops, even more so than Silent Hill 2 remake. And the idea that history is repeating itself with generations and descendants, the trauma manifesting in new forms and being passed on. The 60s setting isn't just new fancy window dressing, it is integral to this game's story, it is integral to this game's theme. It reframes everything about Silent Hill through Japan's lens and culture, the generational struggles, and it dares to ask whether horror is something you can ever truly escape, or if it just mutates into something unrecognisable in a new location. And I'm sure we can all agree, after all, the horror of ordinary people and the real life situations that have happened in human history are far more scarier than the monster under your bed.
This is my choice. And what I decided was, I want a new life. And I want you gone! Shut up! I already decided. I want you gone. Go back to being Shimizu Hinako.
Silent Hill F doesn't just start with horror, it starts with a home, and that's deliberate. The game literally begins where it ends, inside Hinako's fragile domestic life. Her parents arguing, as she thanks her old sister for always being there for her. It's a brief spark of warmth before everything collapses. From that point on, Hinako, a teenage Japanese schoolgirl trapped in the expectations of family, society and tradition, slips out of town to find her friends and escape her suffocating world. But this is when the fog rolls in, swallowing everything whole, and the game truly begins. What's fascinating is how this differs from other games, and that opening compared to the classics especially. There's no slow fade into the terror like Harry Mason's Drive in Silent Hill 1, or James Sunderland's quiet breakdown in 2. F cuts sharper and faster, almost jarringly so. You barely have time to breathe before the dread clamps down. And what immediately sets the tone for the rest of the experience is right there in the first 20 minutes. This is where F makes its biggest break from tradition, the gameplay itself. Hinako isn't some hardened detective or a mentally unstable office worker or a father desperately looking for her child. But she's still capable, if vulnerable. And with everything stacked against her, being anxious, scared, and broken off from her family unit and friendship circle, she has no choice but to fight. But like I said, her combat encounters are the most direct the series has ever been, which is kind of a yin-yang balance. She's more capable, but it feels slow and clunky on purpose. Battles lean into an almost Souls-like tension, something a lot of journalists have touched upon. It's about deliberate dodges, those punishing parries, the mistakes you're going to make, the razor-thin line between survival and collapse. Every single battle with every enemy is a dance of sorts, and I do think it works for this game. Every hit matters, every choice in combat feels weighty. You do have your two main attacks, light and heavy. It's simple but effective. You could even hold down the heavy attack just to give it a bit more oomph. Now, you will sometimes end up with no weapons at times. I went through this for about half an hour because I just wasn't keeping an eye on the quality, the durability. I had no repair items and there was no replacements around, and I was playing on hard from the get-go, so kind of screwed myself there. And most battles can be run from, but sometimes you must face them head on. I'd say around 60 to 70% of the enemies looking back at it can actually be run past or snuck away from. But there's no guns here, so every encounter feels personal and up close. If you choose to fight, you're going to be bashing these guys' heads in. And I think this is something new for the series, because there's always been some kind of weapon in terms of, a gun, like a pistol or a shotgun or a rifle, something like that. But with Hinako being a track star and it's more focused on her fitness, she's pretty capable with those melee weapons. And if you lose enemy sight or take a run for it, like I said, you're not even having to worry about fighting, so much so in the easier difficulties. But like I said, these can adapt, and it's almost the mechanic of your sanity and the harder puzzles and the more aggressive enemies and harder difficulties that really do test your skill with the combat. And it does take a bit to get used to. This is very different in comparison to, say, Silent Hill 2 Remake. But luckily, it's not all about the combat. These games are never about the combat, really. They're just taking a different approach here. And one of the best things about this is Hinako's journal. It's one of the most deceptively important mechanics in Silent Hill F, and on the surface it's almost works as like a player hub or like bibliography of events going on, and it's a place to record details about friends, items and the world, as well as the combat and things you encounter, which Hinako will do as she goes through. It's not something you manually do. But it's functionally way more layered than that. The journal isn't just a gameplay tool, it carries narrative weight, it changes over the course of the game, the drawings change, new text will appear, more context, more information, and that grounds the player in Hinako's perspective and tethers her observations to the broader theme of memory and its fragility, as well as what you as the player is witnessing and remembering.
Are you sure you're okay with this, partner? Is this really what you want? You're clearly not thinking straight right now.
But going back to the combat, because that's going to be the main gameplay loop of the game, it does feel very distinct compared to, like I said, last year's Silent Hill 2. It isn't as fluid, or I don't even think it's designed to be as fluid as even that game, but this is not the story of some seasoned adult protagonist in the US who's probably had some form of gun training. This is a teenage girl wielding improvised weapons in situations she was never meant to face. And the rhythm leans more towards that dodge, parry and attack, carrying echoes of, like I said, a Souls combat system, even if it's not a Souls game. I want to make that very clear. It is not a Souls game. It's not got massive punishing spikes in difficulty, it's not that kind of thing, it's just a very light effect. It's just a modern take on the classic clunky horror combat. And systems like the durability gauge on the weapons and the focus meter enforce a very careful style of play when you do choose to engage in combat. It's all very deeply intentional. Even small items known as the EMAs or AMAs, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, it's not the name, EMAs, they're like little plaques you pick up. They will help you upgrade your stats as you go, so stuff like health, stamina, sanity, and you use a bit of your faith currency alongside that to, upgrade and get a bit better at stuff. It does make rewarding exploration like a bit of a tactile and worthwhile thing to do in this game. And like I said, noting that complete absence of firearms, it does make perfect sense given this is 1960s rural Japan after World War II. They don't really have guns, especially a little rural town. Instead, that combat for it feels more grounded, serviceable and tense. If Hinako was going around with a machine gun or a rifle, I don't think it would have the same effect. Just fighting those lone creatures or the groups or the bosses or the elites, whatever you want to call them, is just equally way more unsettling when you're having to get up close to them. And the arsenal itself that we use reflects this design perfectly. In the real fog-shrouded world, weapons remain grounded in this era. You get pipes, which is a Silent Hill tradition. We get sickles, knives, bats, hammers and axes. Tools and objects that could realistically be scavenged from this area. It's basically a farm and fishing town. And in these dreamlike sequences that we go through in the shrine world, the other world, the weaponry takes on a bit more of a surreal specialness to it. We don't use the same weapons in that version of the game. There are specific things like a small tanto or a longer staff. And this hints at a symbolic dimension unique to those encounters, because I think these blades are actually more used for female level defense, especially in I think it was the Edo period. There was a note on this in the game, and it's quite unique how they feed that lore back into the gameplay. I was very impressed by that. Weapon degradation ties it all together, like I said, but the tools do not break down in that world. It's only in the real world that happens. And the best thing about it as well, there is an inclusion of special unlockable weaponry across multiple playthroughs that feels like a smart nod to series tradition, like the chainsaw in Silent Hill 2. It rewards that persistence and curiosity. And then there's just the presentation of everything. It just looks beautiful. It's got that striking Silent Hill strength. And when you unlock stuff like the special katana or the special lightsaber, like, these are weapons that have a lot of pros and cons. It's really cool and it feels worthwhile. And everything just looks pretty while using these weapons as well, like the menus, the UI, the overall design embraces a distinctively Japanese horror aesthetic, and it feels ripped straight from a PS2 era, something like Fatal Frame or Forbidden Siren, and yet it's modernised through contemporary visuals and smoother controls and more design features that are apparent with our accessible nature in 2025. It's a marriage of an old school atmosphere and modern sensibilities, bringing Silent Hill into 2025 in a realistic new way, while retaining that uncanny charm that defined survival horror over 2 decades ago. Now, it's not all about the combat. The puzzles are very important in any of these survival horror games, especially things like Silent Hill and Resident Evil. And the enigmas of this world are very much present in the puzzle construction, and it's a hidden area to uncover further secrets on what is really going on. These puzzles add more lore and context to everything. I felt like the puzzles made sense, they had meaning, and they blended into the environment perfectly in both worlds, the fog and the shrine world. But they never felt overdone or not welcome. They fitted with the environment that were present within and the culture of Japan. It was all linking beautifully. Each area or section of the game has memorable puzzles to solve. They are not just there for the sake of it, or sake of it. That was terrible. Let's get rid of that. One of my favourites being the school children scarecrows, and also the middle school locker puzzle. They're really cool. Even the later on in the game, the Fox Mural Parade involved a lot of heavy critical thinking, and depending on your difficulty, this is going to change as well. They'll get harder or easier. And I don't want to spoil the rest of the puzzles because that's something, it's more fun to go through than show, but these are the core elements of these kind of games, as we know, especially in Silent Hill, and There doesn't feel like there's as many as, say, Silent Hill 2 Remake, but the ones that are here are very strong, and it felt balanced quite a lot. I probably would have liked to seen a little bit more, but it's a shorter game overall as well. And like I said, going back to kind of how they've layered on the gameplay, the upgrades and the progression systems carry on in each run. So if you upgrade your health, or you gain a lot of faith, or you offer a load of items to get currency, that'll all carry over, as will your kind of special weapons. And the sanity bar is very crucial on higher difficulties. You even have to use a nuclear mind mechanic on hard and Lost in the Fog. If you lose too much of it, you're not just weaker, you're starting to see the world in a more fractured, horrifying way, and survival gets even harder. And faith, like I said, is a currency, but it's a concept, and it's a currency in this world. Asian culture is so deeply intertwined in the game's storytelling and gameplay mechanics. It's all incredibly well done to feed this religion into a way of spending stuff and upgrading. And it all comes together nicely, from that old foggy American town to a new 1960s Japan fog-ridden rural town. Like, every environment you're creeping around, it's just full of dread. It's the perfect stage for a new era of Silent Hill. And this is shown again in the love if you interact with the game's map. It's a sketch that evolves over time, and the surrounding areas and the secrets and things you've already done or seen get marked off on it. Blocked roads, new items and objects you found, like the shrines, paths. It's so intricate, it's really well done. And I would say it's probably got the most interesting and creative map of the series. What makes the era it's set in is so important is because of how much Japan and Asian horror I always felt just was the most brilliant kind of take of horror. It's deeply rooted in it, and the social pressures of post-war Japan, the friction between modernization and tradition, the suffocating weight of family expectations, they all shape Hinako's story and the gameplay you follow. You're not just battling monsters, you're navigating that oppressive structure of the time, filtered through the lens of Silent Hill, that psychological and supernatural element we all love. Even the town's name is loosely translated to a quiet place or quiet hill, which is obviously a sly nod to Silent Hill itself. Nothing here is by accident, and it's such a deeply personal story involving the cultures and conventions. I don't think they could have done it in a better way. So yes, to round up this section, it's an all-new game in an all-new setting with an all-new protagonist and all-new mechanics and new combat, but beneath all that is a structured backbone and DNA of Silent Hill. It's a slow burn terror, and that narrative obsession is still there that focuses on horror. Everyone knows the pressure of being told who to be and what to do, whether that's by family, society, friends, or even your partner. It's not really gender exclusive per se, but what Silent Hill F is doing is using that kind of concept, but in a real world historical setting and location and kind of toxic household and town, to really showcase how that affected a teenage girl in 1960s rural Japan. And it really does crank the pressure up to 10, and the pure horror that is resulted from this simple kind of negative way of life, and the expectations of a good daughter to marry a husband and keep quiet and be happy in someone else's shadow. That's just the way life was for a lot of people back then. The problem is, Hinako is not a conformist. She's outspoken, she's stubborn, and she's unwilling to be swallowed by the same ritual that already consumed and condemned her sister. Cue the constant clashes at home with her parents, her dad being a domineering father, really aggressive, violent, drinking, not really providing for his family, and a passive mother with no backbone who just wanted to keep the peace but ends up hurting both her and her daughter and the father just by doing nothing. Not to mention a circle of friends who are already fraying under the weight of puberty and small town conformity, boredom, and God knows what else.
I don't remember that guy. I don't even know him. First of all, where's this coming from all of a sudden? I don't get it.
I don't know what to do. What would you do, partner?
That's something you have to decide for yourself. It's not really my place.
It's all so strange. Besides, I hate being treated like a girl. It doesn't feel right for me. Does it?
No.
Right? I don't think so either.
Don't go jumping the gun just yet, though. You've got a bad habit of rushing things, you know? Just take some more time to think things over. Calm down and listen to your inner self.
You're right. You're absolutely right, partner.
You all right? Another headache? You tend to get those when you worry too much. Just take some medicine. Don't let it get that bad.
The stuff I bought doesn't work at all.
Okay. Just leave it to me.
A woman is to be loved by a husband, and that is the real reason to be happy if we're going by what to believe in this game. It's all about subservience and being content with following another man's life and just being his shadow. For some, it's an expected joy, but for a girl like Hinako, who already has seen her sister be swallowed by these rituals, it does terrify her. She runs from it and she hides from it. Everyone expects her to just do as she is told, but she's fighting an internal battle of what future to follow. There is even these magazines and notes alluding to the pop culture and the kind of societal pressure at the time in Japan, showcased in this journalism and this general opinion of how misogynistic that era was, and how women really didn't really have any rights or an opinion, they could say. An oppression I'm sure we all know about in the Western world, with the suffragette movement really, aiming to get rid of that. But in Asia, not really that we're aware of. It's quite harrowing.
Idiot! How many times do I have to tell you?
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Did you even taste this? It has no flavor. You're making me drink mud. You can't even do something simple like this? What kind of a worthless woman can't make me so soon?
Stop it! You do this all the time! Cut it out!
Shut up! Don't you dare talk to your father that way. Stay out of this!
You tolerate this, Mom! Why don't you stand up for yourself? And you, Dad, if you don't like her soup, make your own! You're good at cooking, aren't you?
Hinako, stop! Please don't talk back to your father. I made a mistake. You just focus on getting to school.
You didn't do anything wrong! Dad's the one who's in the wrong here!
Hinako! Do not talk like that about your father! Get to school, now!
I hated my father. But I didn't really like my mother either.
Further symbolism and analogies occur as the game progresses, and this kind of goes through the roof when we are saved by a mysterious man. He's wearing a fox mask, and this is something we'll circle back to later in the video, but at this point it almost feels like it's her destiny, this arranged marriage. It's being forced on Hinako to lose who she is, and that is her worst fear. losing her family and friends in the process, because once that new life takes hold, her old life is gone. And it's a new one she's faced with. Rebirth, replacing aspects of herself and what she's supposed to be in this life. Her family and society's eyes are where people's judgment comes from, not herself. And with Shu, her best friend and partner as he refers it, there's clearly a level of unrequited love there for Hinako, adding this weird dynamic, as well as another friend in the group who works as kind of a love triangle. All of these expectations are just being puppeted by the town, people's views, rituals, and these marriages and birthing offspring. It's just not a very good future for the women of this time, and Hinako keeps fighting against it. It's all about the freedom of her choice, and she's not getting it. And the enemies in the game are representative of this as well in designs and actions. From doll-like zombies attacking Hinako for simply being different, forcing conformity or death on her, to the celluloid mounds of dolls screaming in immaturity, and the many faces that represent her inner child and kind of the playground when they're acting. They all do hopscotch as they come towards you. It's very creepy. There's even the grotesque, huge beast who shouts so loud you need to clutch your ears, which I think this is reminiscent of kind of loud, fat Japanese men, or her father, which we'll again get round to later. Everything has a meaning to it. You've got to remember, this is a promised and expected life of content happiness for her in exchange for her free will, and the burden of choice is going to be no more for Hinako. That's her battle in this game. And as you may have realised by this part of the video, or after you played the game yourself and come back, the F in Silent Hill is a clear reflection of the game's core concepts and themes. F is largely representative of feminism or female, although this is largely up to you guys and the fans to interpret, and it could mean many things at once. The F in the logo could be a 5 for the 5th game. It could be F for family, F for friends, F for the female or femininity we've mentioned. It could also be for Fox, because they're given such an important nature in this game. If you look close as well, it's also a lowercase in its font and the game's cover art. It's more pretty compared to the other logo element. Another hint that the game's massively about kind of women and like being pretty and what you expected of. And that arranged marriage and the innocence and the growing up and the changes in life, the process of puberty and expectations of women in this town, in that country at this time, it's very much hammered home but in subtler ways as you play the game. That baby bird needs to fly the nest, as is the way of the world. Hinako in her name even means adorable or innocence or baby bird. This is something that's touched on in the game and you can actually look up in your own time. And Hinako herself feels she needs to follow this path, otherwise she'd end up alone anyway. So it's no win either way.
Is it not enough? What is it? Whatever it is, say it!
What I want, what I'm after, is the same thing as you!
What is that? I implore you, tell me!
What I want is to live my own life. To spread my wings and use them to fly wherever I want to go.
What do you mean by that?
This is somewhat one of her friends, Sukako, experiences firsthand in the story. Remember, maturing and growing up is scary, we've all been through it, change is terrifying, but it is a constant in life, and as someone who's recently gone through a loss, I can really tell you that is the truth. But it's especially awful as a child or a teenager doing this, because you don't know the world yet. And remember, this is a time where the internet and technology isn't around, and it's kind of old style belief. Hinako is essentially avoiding evolving as a person one way or the other. And as a woman, in this part of the world at this time, it's not a good choice. And that is the crux of this story. The inability to move on and the consequences of it. The choice paralysis. It's a real thing, and deciding your own happiness is her choice alone, but it's being taken away from it. Without this, people break down through personal battles leading to awful mental health, in turn leading to substance abuse and psychosis, another strong allegory and symbolist part of F's narrative. The price people pay for conforming to the standards and expectations of our birthplace. This is part of the reason I love analytical gaming, specifically in the genre of horror. It gives us fans so much room to theorise and speculate, and at its core, this is what makes the Silent Hill series so damn special. And the good thing about Silent Hill F as well is there's a surprising amount of content in this game, and it's not just for filler. It's integral to the world building and the player's understanding of Hinako's journey. The semi-open world locations encourage off-the-path wandering, you find notes, there's environmental storytelling. Even if the world feels a touch more restrictive than something like the Silent Hill 2 remake, every empty street or abandoned shrine or crumbling home implies that there's this eerie atmosphere of a rural Asian town. It kind of feels like the original Silent Hill, but in a whole new way. And it's slowly being consumed by this red rot blossom, which is actually different to the fog. And while you technically remain in a single location, the village itself does evolve around you and change and open up and close. The environment's constantly shifting, decaying and growing more hostile as the story progresses. Linking back again to constant change. Hinako's own descent into a mirrored-like appearance and her behaviour, it's showcased as you play as well. Her idle animations become increasingly anxious or weird, and her posture gets tense, her expressions get wary, subtle touches that signal her mounting fear. You can see it on her face, especially later in the game after the mutilations occur. On the surface, it's a physical reflection, and her school uniform, once pristine, gradually becomes torn, frayed, bloodied and lacerated. And it also works metaphorically, revealing her true self piece by piece, or perhaps illustrating a grotesque perversion of femininity under the pressure of the town, its horrors and the expectations. The game repeatedly probes themes of how men and women should behave, with Hinako navigating that world of rigid rules and judgment. And you got to remember as well, this series tradition always had the duality of the worlds. There's the foggy real world that exists alongside a spiritual plane, accessible whenever Hinako sleeps or becomes unconscious. There's the shrine otherworld, diffused with some kind of fog, but it offers glimpses into a distorted reality, one that feels equally valid. Which one's real and which one's the dream? The game deliberately leaves this ambiguous, allowing every player to interpret Hinako's experiences differently. Even her friends begin to shift with these changes in the perception. In these alternate spaces, they treat her as either dead or a traitor or something monstrous. They're quite nasty, and their reactions amplify Hinako's own dissent. She enacts increasingly horrifying actions against them, leaving Sugako caged in the dark, burning Rinko alive, and hanging Shu. She even ultimately leads to killing her own parents, figuratively and physically, in two different ways. Through these brutal acts, Hinako is defying societal expectations and family pressures. She's actively carving her own path by murder. Yet every choice comes at the cost of her former self. She's losing more and more of herself either way. And like I mentioned about the grotesque and mutilation side of things, I mean, when it comes to the shrine otherworld, she even physically mutilates her body, amputating her own arm, replacing it with a godlike fox werewolf-like limb. She even removes her own face, shocking, violent and symbolic, a transformation that strips away her complete individuality and pushes her closer to a persona expected of her by her man, her fox husband, whatever you want to call it, her family and society. This new arm grants her new abilities as well. She can soul siphon enemies to prevent their returning and manipulate others and exert control over her surroundings a lot more. Yet each power does take its toll, further eroding her sense of self. At this point of the game, you're closing in towards the end and the rebirth is becoming massive and it's almost complete. You get a burned sigil on your back, signalling that two versions of Hinako now exist simultaneously. The girl she once was and the version remade by a ritual, covered in violence and expectations. And throughout this descent, the man in the fox mask looms as a metaphorical and literal force. A representation of arranged marriage, societal control, and patriarchal pressure. He embodies the promise of contentment and free will, but at a devastating cost of the loss of self, autonomy, and identity. She could be happy with this guy, but is it her choice? And all through this first playthrough as well, and all these things we're discussing, there is small hints at what is going on, maybe in the future or the past or an alternate world, or we've already been through this. You get confused by messages scrolled in blood and carved into the environment. You see those kind of porcelain celluloid dolls around constantly from your childhood with messages saying don't trust the fox man, stuff like that, don't trust him, stay who you are. I don't know if this is a bigger message to not trust men or not to trust strangers, or maybe just not trusting a husband, but you really have to play the game 3 times to get the true ending to fully grasp what's going on there. But there is a lot of multiple layers to that, and I find that's quite divisive for fans to grasp and accept too, that you've got to play this game multiple times to really get a deep understanding. So that's part of the reason the video today is so focused on this. We're going to explain it.
You traveled this path on your way to school, didn't you? I wanted to go to the same school as you, if it were possible.
It's much about Hinako facing herself, battling herself, arguing with herself. Her old self wants to kill her new self and vice versa, and these creepy Russian dolls that we remember of being many versions of ourselves within ourselves, it's kind of that, and it's a bit Freudian as well. The guy who focused on psychology a lot and gave us a lot of the reasons we think the way we do, minus the weirdness. It all links back to that, and it's really, really well done. And when you play this game, you'll really see it for what it is. I can't recommend it enough. Even those pills you've been taking throughout the game, which are a gameplay mechanic, they help you heal. They have a real reason and a point to the story, and there's also metaphors for mental health there. And it links directly with the world. Shu's motivations, he's the one who gives them you. And that will lead to your first ending. Those red pills have been a constant thread throughout Hinako's journey, a symbol of affiliation, addiction and dependency. They hint at a history of self-medication, whether for pain, stress, anxiety or all three. And it begs the question, did Hinako take her own life? Is she dealing with some kind of overdose and flashback? Or is this more literal and it's a spiral of psyche and guilt and the body worn down by the pressure of everything going on? I would say that the first run of the game is like a gauntlet of grief. You're confronting her past while struggling to remain conscious. It feels like you're reliving an overdose or you're losing yourself as you go. And you get to a point where there's even flashing lights cutting through this fog-like environment, sirens and demons are attacking from every angle, and Every moment is a fight for survival, and the first cycle of the story ends there abruptly, leaving you reeling. In that initial run, it can appear as though she's being punished by those around her, her sister, her friends, or even her parents, for failing to protect or understand her. The violence is staggering and the guilt overwhelming. It's a very, very grotesque game, and it pushes the boat out when it comes to subjects such as suicide and murder. And it's all metaphorical in terms of the killing. Is this really happening? Is it not happening? The wedding, whether it was imagined or real, it represents the ultimate breaking point, a forced marriage, societal expectations, and that crushing loss of autonomy. And Hinako just crashes out and loses it. The red rot blossom that spread the whole time via that bridal fog monster becomes the physical manifestation of this transformation. If you pay attention closely, everywhere Hinako goes, so does the rot blossom. That is very important. It's destructive, painful, and almost grotesque, and that nature of adulthood and societal expectations keep coming back. It's the blossom of death and rebirth, and Hinako runs from the consequences of growing up into that world as she demands to not surrender her true self. Now, those flowers I think are called Japanese spider lilies, and they literally represent like death and rebirth, so that was a very metaphorical and good choice by the developers. Silent Hill F is meticulous in how it layers everything with metaphors, analogies, symbolism, in its mechanics, in the narrative, everything to do with it. Every clue, every object, every character interaction carries meaning, it's purposeful, there's player agency there. But it's always the same with Silent Hill, that it's down to interpretation of a deeply personal story. Each player is going to read into Hinako's transformation differently. Each encounter hints at a unique truth, every ending offers a different perspective, and they all feel canon in their own right, but like I said, playing multiple times really gets you a deep understanding of that story. The game teases and taunts and terrifies, and it's also quite a challenge, and you get to theorise on things and probe the layers beneath the fog, discovering the full depth of its horror, its beauty and the meaning. I really enjoyed my time with Silent Hill F.
Well, I guess both of us are Hinako. But I think one of us has to be wrong. Please, listen. If I'm the one who's wrong, then kill me. Kill me now. If you don't, then I'll have to kill you!
If Hinako's home life is a prison, her friends are supposed to be an escape from that. But in Silent Hill F, friendship isn't a sanctuary, it's just another kind of cage. Each member of her circle reflects a different pressure, a different temptation, or a different cruelty that chips away at her sense of self. And in true Silent Hill fashion, each of them will ultimately suffer a fate almost poetically tailored to their behaviour towards Hinako and hers towards them. So let's start with some of these characters. Shu is the closest thing Hinako has to an anchor in this game, her partner, who hovers over her on the edge of unspoken love. He's protective, tender, and always ready with words of encouragement or a tablet to dull her pain. On the surface, he's her saviour, but symbolically, Shu embodies false salvation, the idea that affection, even love, can be transactional, laced with dependency.
See you tomorrow, partner.
Right, partner.
I like you the way you are now. You wouldn't be you if you went with what others wanted.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Is he helping Hinako because he truly loves her, or because her brokenness makes him feel needed? In Silent Hill, the line between comfort and control is never clear, and Shu walks that line until it cuts just deep enough at that ending. Next up we have Sukako, her first and probably best friend. She's silent, awkward and deeply vulnerable, lonely, autistic, and she's afraid of the dark. She clings to Hinako with desperate devotion. To her, Hinako isn't just a friend, she's that lifeline that keeps her from collapsing into fear herself. But in that devotion lies her role, dependency incarnate. Without Hinako, she just struggles to even be herself and struggles in life. It's quite sad.
What are you doing? No! I don't want to be alone! Hinako! Hinako, help me! Help me! Don't leave me! I don't want to be alone! Wait! Please don't go! We promised to stick together! You traitor!
Sukako represents the crushing weight of being someone else's only hope, a responsibility forced on Hinako that she neither asks for or can really even truly fulfill. Need becomes suffocation and affection becomes another shackle around Hinako's neck. Then there's Rinko, the quietly simmering storm. Outwardly, she plays the role of a friend, sharing laughs and standing within the group, some cheeky punches at her, verbally, but nothing too bad. But beneath those exterior boils envy. Rinko watches Shu's affection for Hinako with silent fury, almost like he's a prize to be won. Because she loves him herself, and Shu loves Hinako. It's a bit of a love triangle. Every glance, every smile between them deepens her resentments. She embodies jealousy, the kind of bitterness that turns companionship into rivalry and corrodes even the closest of bonds. In the world of Silent Hill F, jealousy isn't just an emotion, it's a curse. And this is something that makes Hinako's journey so compelling, because we've all got these kind of friends as we grow up and evolve. They're not just characters, they're mirrors of who we interact with and parts of ourselves. Shu, Sukako and Rinko each reflect the pressures that trap Hinako. Salvation that isn't pure, love that suffocates, and friendship poisoned by envy.
Hey, since it's just the two of us, let's play our own version of Space Force. If you want, I could be your partner. Or maybe some kind of femme fatale. Got it. Found the key.
Welcome back. Sorry for the trouble. Your turn, partner. We've rested enough.
Sit down. Shu and I can stay up and keep watch over you.
No, I'm all right.
Hinako, get some rest. We'll stand guard while you're sleeping.
Nighty-night, Hinako.
And lastly, we have come to the last two most unsettling characters and forces in Silent Hill F, the man in the mask and the fog monster. They are mysterious for different reasons but equally terrifying. The masked man is a human, or at least seems to be, and that he makes his intentions all the more chilling. Who he is and why he hovers around Hinako's fate remains deliberately unclear for a lot of the game. It may take you a few runs to fully understand his background. The fog monster, on the other hand, is something else entirely. Inhuman, overwhelming and creeping presences that feels less like a creature and more like the land itself reaching out to devour everyone in its path. Both of these figures are key to the game's deepest horrors, and their true roles remain pretty unclear, but become clearer as we continue the game and this video. The brilliance of Silent Hill F is how these roles aren't just left symbolic. The fog ensures that each friend's fate becomes a haunting extension of who they really are in a visual sense as we progress, a metaphor of conflict. Every player will experience Hinako's journey differently. Every encounter, every choice, every horror can read in multiple ways, and every ending, like I said, they're all valid, they're all true on their own, and depending on what you've done in those playthroughs and what you've seen, that's how you get your canon or true ending after that first run. Now it's time to touch on the grander explanation of things and round up these endings in a way that can round up the video also, so let's get right into that. So as we move into wrapping up this video and really getting into the explanation of what's going on, let's just touch base and say, I've seen all 5 endings now, I've completed the game like 100%, it took me about 35 hours and I hit it hard over obviously the release period, and finally I have somewhat of a grasp on what the writers and developers are really trying to say with this game, and it's deliberately confusing. It's a maze-like design to be played, replayed, reinterpreted. That's just their goal, and that's both its genius and its curse. Not quite everything works, but majority of it does, which you can see the intricacies in anyone's review. Some players are going to thrive in this fog of ambiguity, others will find themselves lost in it and getting a bit frustrated. But for this final chapter of the video, I want to connect the dots, the metaphors, the mechanics, the horrors, and the choices Hinako makes. It's time to ask the ultimate question of what actually happened in Silent Hill F.
What did you think, Hinako?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I figured. That's understandable. Just try to gather your thoughts and think long and hard. Speak with your inner self and really hear what she has to say.
I hate this.
What?
No! I'm not doing this!
What's gotten into you, Hirako?
I'll tell you! I hate you, Mother!
What?
I said I hate you! I never want to be like you!
Now, when you strip back everything about this game, it's not just a horror story, it's actually a perspective into that era, that society. It's about autonomy, about conformity, feminism, and the terrible cost of reclaiming yourself in a world determined to define you when you already know who you are as a person. So, let's rewind. The game begins with something easy to miss but impossible to forget. A porcelain or celluloid doll. It's pale, delicate, distinctly Western, which is odd considering the setting is in rural 1960s Japan. Where did Hinako even get this doll, and why does it not resemble the Asian women of the era, which we can see in other areas of the game as Asian dolls? To me, this is our first clue. Hinako is different. She doesn't fit the mould of her culture or the demands of it, and the dialogue reinforces this, especially in New Game Plus runs where the introduction shifts slightly to deepen this idea. From here, we're thrown between two worlds, the fog-shrouded town where Hinako flees with her friends, fights monsters, and unravels cryptic notes, and that shrine otherworld, a ritualistic place soaked in blood, blossoms, and sacrifice. What even is that place? At first it seems like classic Silent Hill duality. One world is real, the other is a metaphor, and the more I played, the more I realised, what if neither of these worlds are real? What if both are false? What if everything we see is simply Hinako recounting her trauma through the filter of the fog, a splintered, drug-soaked hallucination that bends her reality into allegory and symbolism? This theory gains more and more weight when you look at the endings and each time you play the game through. Each one isn't just a branch of the story, it's the story itself. They're all valid, they're all canon. Each is a distorted version of Hinako's fate in different ways, refracted through her broken mind. It's shaping her choices and interpretations. It's her mind battling with herself and different versions of Hinako going, what if I did this, what if I did this? Silent Hill won't just hand you the truth in any of their games, it forces you to wrestle with it and interpret it, and stuff like Silent Hill 2 is very well known for this. Let's take the first ending for example, the standard one. No matter how you play, your first run will always end with Hinako's collapse. The pressure of her family, the suffocating weight of societal expectation, and her dependence on those red pills.
Impossible! You still cling to life.
Junko, how could you be on their side? You don't understand how I feel.
Calm down! Do you understand why you're here? Think!
I don't know. Where am I? I don't like it here. It feels bad. I want to go home.
What is that? How long have you been taking those? Is it really okay for you to take that much?
Yes, I'm fine. These things help me calm down.
Stop that right now! You shouldn't take those anymore!
Leave me alone!
Her actions in the fog and the shrine worlds, imprisoning friends, burning Rinko, hanging Shu, mutilating herself, spiraling to a violent crescendo. By the end, she either dies outright or she disappears into the fog, consumed by guilt and despair. Another interpretation for you. But here comes the gut punch. There's a post-credit reveal. Hinako isn't a schoolgirl. She's a woman in her 20s. She's forced into an arranged marriage to settle her parents' debts. The entire game is a drug-induced retelling of her collapse on her wedding day. She's trapped between two impossible choices: submit to a new life she never wanted and help her parents and keep those relationships, or obliterate herself in resistance, murdering everyone and everything around her. In this first ending, she snaps. It's horrific, it's grounded, and it's all too real. This is Silent Hill F at its most brutal, not just supernatural horror, but the terror of living in a world where identity and autonomy are stripped away from you. It leaves you gasping, confused, and disturbed, and yet it feels really honest and realistic in some ways.
Yonikawa 2 to HQ. We've got 2 male victims here. Same female suspect as in the wedding massacre on Route 8. One victim is currently in cardiac arrest.
Kagerocho 1 to HQ. We haven't found the knife used by the suspect at the scene. Chances are good that it's still in the suspect's possession. We'd better consider her armed. Over.
Attention all apartments. This is HQ. Female suspect is in her 20s and wearing a wedding dress. Height is a little over 160 centimeters. Last seen fleeing Tsuneyoshi Shrine. Believed to be armed and highly dangerous. Exercise extreme caution.
Come in, HQ. This is Kagerocho 1. It appears the suspect was observed consuming red and white capsules at the scene of the crime.
Kagerocho 1, this is HQ. Did the capsules match the ones discovered at the wedding venue? Over.
HQ, this is Kagerocho 1. Affirmative. We've collected the capsules that the suspect dropped.
When it comes to your next playthrough, Silent Hill F starts to shift, subtly at first, then dramatically later on. New areas unlock, optional conversations appear, different cutscenes branch across, notes and items that weren't there before are suddenly on the surface. The bones of the story remain the same, but the skin and the muscle feels different. Knowing what we know now at the end of the first run, the town whispers a little louder to us, and the player begins to see the machinery of the horror more clearly and what's truly happening. This run really reveals the town's mythology a lot more. I think it's pronounced Ebisuko. I probably butchered that, but oh well. And the sacred tree that is worshipped by the townsfolk. It's on the top of the mountainous trail you actually come across in the first run, but there's not really anything you can do. However, there is a sacred blade tied to it, a sword rumoured to be haunted, perhaps even possessed by a demonic spirit buried beneath its roots. These additions expand the scope, taking the narrative beyond the personal trauma of the realm of ritual, tradition and ancient curses. And this time, it's more of a deliberate choice. Everything starts to expand more and more, and this time as well, I totally refused the red pills. No more chemical crutches, no more descent in that spiral defined the first ending. Instead, my playthrough focused on gathering offerings for the shrines, a path that eventually placed the cursed swords in my hand.
Come to us. Come to the divine tree. What was I? Divine tree? What is this all about?
The changes come quickly around the halfway mark. A cutscene plays at Shu's house without the pills. You can no longer support Hinako in that sense. He's off to join the army by the sounds of it, and a moment is framed where the withdrawal of care is somewhere in the inability to accept the truth of her arranged marriage. It starts making sense more that he knows he's going to lose his partner. His role shifts from saviour to bystander, forced to confront the limits of what he can do for her. It's a moment that reframes their bond completely, stripping away the illusion of salvation through dependency.
Thanks for everything. I'll do this without you. I'll be fine. On my own.
Now with those pills avoided, Hinako's body horror accelerates. She gains the fox arm, dons the fox mask, and bears the clan's insignia burned on her back much earlier than in the first run, completely changing the gameplay dynamic of those early stages. Now you have these 3 extra abilities. Now these grotesque transformations aren't just cosmetic. Like I said, they unlock those new abilities, visions and paths. Entire sections of the shrine and otherworld become explorable like they couldn't before, revealing deeper lore about her betrothed, his family, their rituals, and the oppressive traditions she's being forced into. It's here that the metaphor sharpens. This isn't simply Hinako's nightmare, it's an inheritance of rot passed down through generations, threatening to consume her entirely. She wasn't the first victim of this fox tradition, and she won't be the last. Eventually though, the path splits. In the fog world, you're presented with a choice tied to the demon-haunted sword. Do you purify it, cleansing the spirit, or do you embrace the corruption and wield its power as it is? And without that power, it behaves differently. It's almost possessed when you're using it with the spirit. It's the kind of binary Silent Hill excels at. Not good or bad in simple terms, but a reflection of what you believe Hinako is willing to do in terms of sacrifice for survival. Either way, the outcome reshapes the ending, offering 2 distinct variations, one where Hinako finds strength through purification, and another where she doubles down on the corruption. So let's start with how the game frames this bad ending. Here, the player purifies the sword, casting out the demon that resides within. At first, this feels like a righteous, hopeful act, a cleansing corruption, breaking that curse. But in Silent Hill, things are never that simple.
Thank you so much for helping me. I'm fine now. From now on, I can take a stand on my own.
Instead of facing the bridal monstrosity we fought before, Hinako now locks eyes with her truest adversary, herself. Her fractured psyche takes centre stage, and in this confrontation, her would-be husband, the man in the fox mask, offers her a red elixir. This moment is crucial. The elixir banishes the evil spirit from within the version of Hinako we've been playing, the one wielding the sword. It looks like salvation, but salvation always comes at a cost. Immediately after, Shu re-enters the narrative. He strikes the fox mask to the ground, furious, venting his frustrations about trust, betrayal, and Hinako's choice of his path. His dialogue finally peels back more layers of truth, the reality of the pills his family crafted for Hinako, the role he played in feeding her dependency, and his inability to protect her from the crushing weight of tradition. But this is where his bitterness takes form. Shu's negativity, his resentment and despair draw the banished demon back to him. He wants to control Hinako, he wants her, but in a very passive way. It possesses him, warping him into a monster Hinako must defeat. And though she may survive this confrontation, the real horror comes after.
I'm no good! I tried to smile and wish you well, but I couldn't do it! And what's worse is, I gave you those capsules.
What about them?
They help you reflect within yourself. But they can be extremely dangerous, too.
Why would you give me something like
I
that?
didn't want you to get married! I care about you so much! I wanted you to see it! What the hell is wrong with me? How could I not be happy for my partner? I'm such a piece of trash! You should hate me.
I could never hate you. He's my partner. We've been together ever since I can remember. How could I hate him? You're trying to ruin today. To ruin everything that we've had together. Partner. That alien scum won't go down without a fight. But together, we can take it on!
Hinako has accepted her fate after this. She takes the fox's hand, binds herself to him, and seals her own loss of freedom. The purified blade becomes symbolic of her compliance. She's getting rid of her old self, her aggressive, stubborn self. She's not liberated, she is shackled to another being. This ending is pretty dark, not because she dies, but because she lives on in something less than herself. A bride owned by tradition, a woman silenced by expectation, and a soul devoured by resignation.
Let's go inside. It is cold out.
All right. No. I'm scared. I'm so scared. Please don't. No, I'm scared. I don't want to be like my mother. I don't want to become my mother.
But it's not all doom and gloom. If you choose to not purify the sword, you get the so-called good ending. And this is where things get truly fascinating. Instead of purifying the sword, the player leaves the demon within, embracing its corruption. This choice unlocks new layers of the story, conversations with Junko and the ever-present porcelain, kind of celluloid-looking doll, shifts in tone and meaning. The doll once was seen on her sister's back in other ending cutscenes, now appears strapped to Hinako's own. It's as if the conscious decision has been made here to claim her autonomy, even if that means carrying her demons openly. From here, the climax unfolds differently again. Hinako smashes the shrine altar, a symbolic rejection of tradition, and once again confronts her fox-like self. But this battle doesn't drag on. It actually ends abruptly, clearing the stage for a greater truth again. The fox mask man emerges, chastising Hinako this time, unsure of who she's become, questioning who this person is and who this spirit is. And then, just as before, Shu appears, knocking him to the ground. Now this is where everything gets a bit weird and wonderful and supernatural more so. Now this is open to interpretation, but I don't think there's actually gods and monsters in this. I think it's again all within Hinako's mind. But when this happens, the twist lands hard. Her would-be husband is no mere man, but a fox god, a living embodiment of ritual, control and patriarchal tradition. His rhetoric is heavy with destiny and duty, insisting Hinako accept her role as his bride. But this time, Hinako is refusing. When she defeats him, he finally acknowledges her will, a bird freed from her cage, a soul choosing her own wings.
This is not behavior befitting a bride-to-be.
Tell me, who the hell are you?
I would ask the same of you. Who are you? Hinako would never act this way. How have you entered these sacred grounds? Reveal your true self!
Shu!
I always believed in you, partner. I knew eventually you'd find the strength to speak up and finally express your true feelings.
How dare you set foot here? How did filth like you creep in?
Hinako, run for it!
The brilliance of this ending lies in its subtle details as well. If you pay attention to when Hinako and Shu escape the fog, they're not just fleeing a dream world like we've come to expect it, they're running from a physical shrine in a real village. Now this confirms what many suspected. The shrine otherworld exists both in Hinako's mind and the town itself, blurring that line between psychological and supernatural. And Hinako herself is deeply unreliable as a narrator, as I'm sure you've come to realise and we've discussed. When she remarks at Shu looking strange in a tie, the contradiction is telling. He's never wore a tie in the entire game, he's a school kid. But here's the truth. Shu has just been interpreted for her wedding. He's actually dressed formally for the ceremony, and so is Hinako. She's in her bridal gown, but through her fractured perceptual but through her fractured perception, she still sees herself as a schoolgirl and her peers. She's almost regressing. No one is who they actually look like. They're all in their 20s. Now this is deliberate misdirection, crafted by both the developers and Hinako's deteriorating mind. No one here is truly a student. They're all adults bound by societal chains, debt and family expectations, all refracted through the fog of trauma. The good ending doesn't simply save Hinako, it unmasks the illusion the entire game has been built upon on your third run.
Are you alright?
Thank you, Shu. If you hadn't come to help, I wouldn't have been brave enough to go on.
That's not it. That's the opposite of why I decided to help you. I helped because you showed so much courage.
It took me way too long to find that courage, though. I caused everyone so much trouble.
I don't know. I think it's crazy that you felt that the only way to do that was to give up on your life.
Thank you, partner. You know, you look really weird in a tie.
Yeah, well, you look really weird in that.
Geysers have begun to reach approximately 50 meters in height, and over the past 3 weeks have shown no signs of letting up. Water temperatures and concentration levels of the accompanying hydrogen sulfide gas continue to increase dramatically, and the foul odor has spread to even this location. All residents of Evisagawa have been ordered to evacuate. Earlier we spoke with the head of the
Next, I want to lighten the mood a little bit before we come to the whole game's and my video's conclusion. Every Silent Hill game has a silly ending, it's a tradition, and we have the UFO Space Wars ending in Silent Hill F. It's a tradition, like I said, it's legendary, the absolute absurdity is always welcome. Does it add to the lore? No. Does it deepen the metaphor of Hinako's trauma? Absolutely not. But does it make you laugh and go, yeah, this is Silent Hill? 100%. Now, to unlock this, you don't need to conquer your inner demons or mutilate yourself in a shrine ritual. Nope, you just have to tune into a weird radio broadcast early on in the game. After your first run, this has to be done on a New Game Plus. Then you have to track down 3 very suspicious looking movie posters across the village and the kind of outskirts, and then stumble across a cheeky review of Space War. Do all that and bam, suddenly you're rewarded with a full-blown anime-styled finale straight out of left field, and I really enjoyed this. Hinako, Foxmass, Blossom Rot, forget all that, aliens have entered the chat. And honestly, it's glorious. The whole sequence feels like the developers winking directly at the player, reminding us that while Silent Hill F is one of the darkest, most emotionally crushing entries in the franchise, it's still part of a series where pyramid-headed monsters can get abducted by little green men. It's the palate cleanser no one asked for, but everyone needed.
Why isn't there anyone in town?
Because of them. There's no doubt about it.
Them?
Yeah, the aliens. They've been eyeing Earth for a long time, waiting for the chance to snatch up humans and replace them with aliens. Rinko, Hinako, me, any one of us could be an alien merely pretending to be the real person.
I'm not an alien! Is there any way to prove our identities? There is. What? Didn't you die? That thing killed you! This is Roboco, an anti-extraterrestrial search and destroy robot I designed and built. This robot can detect aliens masquerading as humans and automatically eliminate them. The battery's dead.
Finally, it's time to talk about Silent Hill F's true canon ending, as per the developer's intention. Although I do believe any of the endings can be considered your own true ending, like previous titles. This game was intended to be played 5 times to experience everything it had to offer, and rewards you, the player, with everything in the end. And for this ending, we need to follow purification of the sword, not taking any pills, have completed the game at least twice before, and offer the brooch we have been wearing the whole time. Once these requirements are met, the ending in the ritual hall will finalise, and it'll all be unveiled. It turns out both versions of Hinako had been manipulated by gods, shall we say, the fox and the demon entity, using a version of Hinako as a doll or a puppet to destroy the other. This could also be seen as a great analogy for Asian culture at the time, being so soaked in tradition and control of women, while also a metaphor for each side's parents, Hinako and Fox Mask to be wed off with their own benefits. It has also been slowly revealed over notes and multiple endings that the man in the fox mask was a childhood friend we knew when we were younger, Kota Yuki, a lost member and heir to the Inari clan in Hinako's town. That's what all the fox stuff means. Inari is essentially a representation of the fox god. Things making more sense now, yeah. We battle these gods formally in an incredibly well designed and visually mechanically done fight before reaching the conclusion of F. And ultimately, all endings were leading to the same realization and Hinako learning to be at peace with herself. Whether this is down to mental health, substance abuse, the fog phenomenon, or simply the gods puppeteering their fate, that is up to you, the player. That is what matters. But to bring this all together with my own theory of everything we see, hear and endure after the game's opening, I don't believe it's reality at all, but a fever dream inside Hinako's fractured mind, shaped and distorted by the fog. Both the village and the shrine are fabrications, projections of her trauma and fears, each character enemy twisted reflection of people and the pressures of her defined life. The world of Silent Hill F isn't about geography, it's about perception. Ebisoka, where it's set, is a physical town, but like Silent Hill itself, it's a place poisoned by faith, ritual and false gods, where the fog manifests not as a setting, but as a prison of the psyche. And here's where it all clicks. Back in Shu's home, there is something the player can discover, backed up by notes found throughout the game. His family, being the town doctors, also helps us grasp this. You discover an iconic and memorable white flower growing in the garden. White Claudia. This was distilled into pills and is exactly what Hinako has been consuming the whole time. And this is explained in another ending, how these pills help self-reflection but can be extremely dangerous, which we've already seen. Also, remember that red elixir offered in the same ending? That's the same compound first seen in Silent Hill 1. This isn't a coincidence, it's connective tissue, a deliberate bridge between F and the rest of the franchise.
It's quiet here, isn't it? No one to tell us what to do or bother us. It's nice, just the two of us. Yeah, just the two of us to decide where to go. think it's ever been this quiet in Ebisugaoka. It's really beautiful. And it is all ours. Our silent Ebisugaoka. Together.
Ultimately, when all said and done and this massive long video is out of the way, thank you for being here, guys. I do really appreciate it. Silent Hill F isn't just a straightforward ghost story, even a simple tale of trauma. What we're experiencing here is Hinako's fractured retelling of her own collapse, refracted and distorted through that lens of Silent Hill, all on that fateful day of her wedding. Every grotesque death, every ritual, every monstrous transformation is less a literal event and more of a fever dream, a drug-induced metaphor laden with hysteria, forcing her to confront the unbearable weight of her life, her friends' cruel fates, the violent mutations, the blossoms of rot creeping through that village. They're not just horrors, they're commentaries. Now there's so many interpretations, and I'm so glad that this game is so open to that, because I want to hear down below all about what you think about what I've said, what you've seen, maybe what you've played, your opinions, your theories. I really want this place to be almost like a forum to discuss what you think about this game, good, bad, pros, cons, what you loved, what you hated, what you think is really happening. That's why I wanted to make this kind of video, really, as a discussion. I'm a massive Silent Hill fan and I love this entry. I know there's some shortcomings in the gameplay, but in terms of the story and the narrative and the visuals, it is fucking incredible. And Silent Hill doesn't just invent these nightmares, it takes the raw material of someone's pain and reflects it back on them, mercilessly, until she's got no choice but to face it in this regard. And to me, that is the brilliance of this series and of Silent Hill F. It never hands you the answer, it dares you dig to connect the dots, to decide what's real, what's a metaphor, what's symbolism, and what's just pure madness. And for Hinako, maybe there's no single truth, just versions of herself reflected in the fog, like those little Russian dolls all bundled inside each other, our subconscious versus our conscious. In the end, Silent Hill F is less about solving the mystery than it is about sitting with it and thinking about it, letting those questions haunt you long after the credits roll, realising what is a real horror and what is just monsters and rituals. It's in how easily the fog can twist anyone's story, even our own. I mean, just making this video, guys, playing the game for 30 plus hours since release, multiple times through, and then editing, sitting, recording, doing all this. I feel like I'm in my own delusion now. Like Silent Hill V. And for us, all of us, the fans, the commentators, the players, every ending I just think is canon, because every ending is just a mirror of what you've played and what you're seeing. It reflects the way we choose to interpret her story, the lens we carry into that fog. Her choice is what shapes her fate and her future, and thinking back all the way to when we discovered and discussed what that F may mean, things become a lot clearer, at least for me now. The F is for fate, it's for future, but considering everything, I think it ultimately means the freedom to choose. So thanks everyone for joining me on this, probably my longest video I've ever made. But it's good to get it out, and if you loved it, please comment, please share, please hype. That's something new, hyping. You can do it on mobile apparently. Like the video, just interact with it, share it around. I just want a lot of engagement on this because I want to talk to other fans, I want to get other people like that in the community, so that would mean a lot. And if you made it all the way to the end of the video, let me know, what's your favourite episode of Space Wars?
Whenever your father and I got into a serious argument, he knew that against me, he never had a chance. But Hinako, that was just how life bottom of my heart, I truly am.
Thank you for telling me all of this.